In a world ruled by cunning men and blinded by ego, the greatest danger isn't weakness, it's stupidity dressed as virtue. And the worst part? Most people who are stupid never realize they are. Today, we'll expose the 6 unmistakable signs of a stupid man, not to mock him, but to help you see him, avoid him, and make sure you never become him. Because stupidity isn't harmless. It collapses empires, ruins friendships, and turns potential kings into pawns. Machiavelli warned centuries ago that a prince who surrounds himself with fools will soon become one. Every generation proves him right. So let's begin with the first sign. The most seductive and the most destructive. Sign 1. He mistakes kindness for strategy. A stupid man believes that being kind is the same as being wise. He thinks that goodness will protect him, that if he lowers his sword, the world will lower theirs. He gives freely, forgives easily, and trusts instantly. And he calls it compassion. But what he really shows is weakness. Watch him in public, apologizing for things he never did, smiling nervously when others insult him, tolerating disrespect disguised as jokes. He believes this is noble. The powerful call it prey behavior. The cunning see kindness without calculation as open wounds waiting to be exploited. Machiavelli never told you to stop being kind. He told you to stop being predictable. A wise man can be kind, but only when it serves a purpose. He can forgive, but only once the lesson is learned. He can help, but never at the expense of his own strength. The stupid man gives endlessly and wonders why he's empty. The wise man gives selectively and wonders why he's respected. Sign 2. He cannot stay silent. Silence is power, but to the stupid man, silence feels like death. He fills every pause with nervous chatter, every quiet with explanations. He speaks not because he has something to say, but because he cannot bear to feel invisible. In a room full of strangers, he reveals everything, his goals, his failures, his weaknesses, even his secrets, all to feel seen. He believes that openness earns trust, but when given to the wrong ears, it earns only control. While the wise man studies the room, the stupid man fills it with noise. He talks himself into corners, reveals his strategy before the game begins, and mistakes attention for respect. The less he's understood, the more he talks. The more he talks, the less he's respected. Machiavelli would remind you, the most dangerous man in the room is rarely the loudest. The quiet observer controls the flow of information. The loud fool supplies it. Sign 3. He trusts by default. The stupid man trusts not because it's earned, but because it feels good. He believes in apologies more than patterns, smiles more than consistency. He assumes honesty from those who flatter him. He mistakes charm for character. He tells secrets to new friends. He lends money to those who barely ask. He partners with people he barely knows, all because he wants to believe the world is good. And when betrayal comes, he calls it bad luck. But it wasn't misfortune. It was poor judgment. Machiavelli said it clearly. Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Trust in the hands of a fool is a loaded weapon pointed at his own head. A wise man doesn't give trust, he sells it. Slowly, cautiously. He tests character before confiding, observes reactions before opening up, and reveals nothing until the other has proven they can protect it. The stupid man sees this as paranoia. The powerful see it as survival. Sign 4. He lives for validation. The stupid man's entire self-worth depends on approval. One compliment can make his week. One rejection can destroy it. He constantly adjusts his words, tone, even his beliefs, not to be right, but to be liked. He laughs at jokes that insult him. He agrees with opinions he despises. He bends himself into shapes that fit everyone else's comfort. He calls it humility, but it's just fear of being disliked. And here's Machiavelli's brutal truth. The man who seeks to be loved will always serve those who give love least. The more he chases acceptance, the more invisible he becomes. Real respect doesn't come from being agreeable. It comes from being grounded, from saying no without guilt, from setting boundaries without apology, from being comfortable with being misunderstood. The wise man doesn't beg to be liked. He becomes the standard others adjust to. Sign 5. He can't control his emotions. Here's the fifth and perhaps most revealing mark of stupidity: emotional impulsiveness. A stupid man confuses emotional honesty with emotional control. He thinks that by expressing himself, he's being real. But the truth is, he's being read, like an open book that everyone can use against him. Watch how easily his face betrays his thoughts. One insult, and his pride ignites. One disappointment, and he collapses. One betrayal, and he swears revenge he can never deliver. He celebrates too early, mourns too loudly, and reveals too much. Machiavelli warned, "The man who cannot control his emotions cannot control his fate." Emotion clouds the battlefield. It blinds reason. It makes a man predictable, and predictability is death in the game of power. The wise man feels everything, but reveals nothing. He lets his emotions pass through him without letting them decide his actions. He pauses where others panic. He smiles where others snap. He acts when the moment demands it, not when his pride insists. When provoked, he doesn't explode. He observes. When insulted, he doesn't defend. He watches for weakness. His silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. Because every emotional outburst is a confession, and every calm reaction is an advantage. The stupid man thinks passion makes him strong. But in truth, his emotions are chains, and the man who cannot master his inner storms will forever be ruled by those who can. Sign 6. He refuses to take responsibility. Here lies the fatal core of stupidity, the inability to look inward. The stupid man is never at fault. When life falls apart, it's always someone else's doing: his boss, his parents, his friends, fate, or the system. He complains loudly, but learns nothing. He walks through life convinced that the world is conspiring against him, when in reality, the world simply doesn't care. His failures, his stagnation, his bitterness, all explained away by external enemies. He will curse betrayal, but never study why he allowed betrayers so close. He will condemn injustice, but never examine his own poor decisions. Machiavelli would say this man is doomed. Because no one can fix what they refuse to admit is broken. No one can grow while clinging to their excuses. Every great strategist studies his defeats more closely than his victories. The stupid man does the opposite. He complains instead of calculating. He vents instead of evolving. He calls himself unlucky, but luck always favors the prepared mind. Responsibility is the dividing line between fools and masters. The moment you say, "I failed because I was not good enough," is the moment you become dangerous, because now you can change. Now you can adapt. Now you have power. The stupid man fears that sentence more than death itself, because it demands effort. It demands evolution. So instead, he surrounds himself with other fools who confirm his delusions, flatter his ego, and keep him comfortably blind. Machiavelli wrote, The man who refuses to learn from pain will repeat it until it destroys him. And that is how stupidity becomes fate, not through a single mistake, but through 1,000 small refusals to grow. The cycle of stupidity. The tragedy of the stupid man is not that he's evil or lazy, it's that he's unaware. He mistakes emotion for courage, validation for love, kindness for strength, trust for morality, and self-pity for depth. And because of that, he never evolves. He will keep talking when he should listen, keep trusting when he should test, keep giving when he should guard, keep apologizing for things he never did, all while wondering why he's invisible in the eyes of those who matter. Machiavelli never pitied such men. He observed them, watching as they destroyed themselves not in one grand failure, but through countless tiny betrayals of their own potential. It begins with a soft heart and no edge. Then comes the endless chatter, the reckless trust, the hunger for approval. Add emotional volatility and finish it with a refusal to learn, and you have the perfect formula for self-destruction. And the world rewards it. Because manipulators, narcissists, and opportunists depend on the stupid man to stay that way. His kindness feeds them. His trust protects them. His naivety shields them. He is the fuel that keeps their power burning. The alternative. Strategic intelligence. If you recognize even a trace of the stupidity in yourself, you stand at a crossroads. One path is easy. It asks nothing from you but your pride and your excuses. The other is brutal. It demands you to face yourself with ruthless honesty. Most men will take the first path. They will live comfortably blind, surrounded by noise, flattery, and illusion. But a rare few will choose the second. They will become dangerous, not in cruelty, but in clarity. Because when you learn to see the patterns, when you master your emotions, when you replace blind trust with patient observation, you become unreadable. And the unreadable man, as Machiavelli taught, is the one no one dares to underestimate. This is the moment where ignorance ends and awareness begins. Let's go deeper, because the stupid man doesn't just make mistakes, he builds an entire identity around them. Every habit he defends, every excuse he clings to, every illusion he refuses to drop becomes a brick in the fortress of his own downfall. And he defends that fortress as if it were his pride. He says things like, "That's just who I am," or "People never give me a chance," or "It's not fair." These phrases may sound harmless, but they're deadly. They protect his ego while destroying his potential. Machiavelli would call this self-inflicted blindness. Because once a man convinces himself that he's always the victim, he will never learn the language of victory. You'll see this everywhere, in workplaces, friendships, even families. A man complains about betrayal, yet keeps trusting too quickly. He complains about disrespect, yet never enforces boundaries. He complains about being overlooked, yet never projects confidence. The world keeps teaching him lessons, and he keeps refusing to study them. The refusal to learn is the beginning of decay. The stupid man does not study his pain. He only feels it. He'll relive the same heartbreak, repeat the same bad deals, surround himself with the same kind of users, and each time he'll call it bad luck. But luck isn't the issue. Perception is. Pain is information. It's feedback from reality. Every wound carries a lesson. The wise man studies that lesson until it becomes armor. The stupid man keeps bleeding and calls it fate. That's why Machiavelli never pitied the fool. He saw stupidity not as an accident, but as a decision repeated so often that it becomes identity. The man who refuses to think becomes the servant of those who do. The stupid man's faith in comfort. There's another thing the stupid man worships: comfort. He avoids tension, avoids silence, avoids truth. He'll choose the lie that flatters over the truth that burns. He wants to feel right, not be right. So he fills his life with distractions, constant noise, shallow conversations, meaningless pleasures. He says he wants peace, but he's really just avoiding discomfort. And that's why he never grows, because growth requires friction. Machiavelli said, "Men desire change, but fear the means by which it comes." The stupid man wants transformation without sacrifice, confidence without discipline, power without pain. But evolution demands discomfort. It requires silence, solitude, and confrontation with the parts of yourself that you'd rather keep buried. When a wise man feels pain, he studies it. When a stupid man feels pain, he seeks comfort and calls it healing. But comfort is a drug, and every dose makes him weaker. How the wise man turns pain into power. The wise man studies his reactions. He asks, "Why did that insult anger me? Why did that betrayal shake me? What fear in me did this expose?" Because every emotional reaction reveals an internal weakness. The fool blames the trigger. The wise man strengthens the shield. The fool cries about being tested. The wise man trains under pressure. Machiavelli would tell you that every setback, every slight, every rejection is an X-ray. It reveals where your armor cracks. And only the man who examines those cracks can forge himself into something unbreakable. Stupidity's final stage, projection. When the stupid man finally runs out of excuses, he turns outward. He mocks success. He attacks others for doing what he couldn't. He surrounds himself with people who mirror his mediocrity. He confuses loyalty with stagnation, calling it keeping it real. This is where stupidity turns venomous. Instead of learning from the strong, he resents them. Instead of studying the cunning, he calls them evil. He wants to feel morally superior while staying powerless. Machiavelli observed this pattern centuries ago. The man who refuses to change will always call those who do corrupt. The man who stays small must convince himself that greatness is sinful. Otherwise, he'll have to confront his own cowardice. So he clings to false virtue. At least I'm a good person. But goodness without discipline is weakness. And weakness disguised as morality is the most common form of stupidity on earth. The moment of choice. Now, imagine the crossroads again. One path is wide, bright, filled with comfort, excuses, and other people nodding along to your self-pity. The other is narrow, cold, and silent. But at the end of it stands something rare: mastery. To walk that second path, you must be willing to offend your own ego. You must be willing to admit, "I've been stupid." You must be willing to see your emotional impulsiveness not as passion, but as lack of control. Your trust not as virtue, but as laziness. Your kindness not as goodness, but as lack of boundaries. That level of self-honesty is brutal, but it's also liberating. Because once you've seen your own foolishness clearly, no one else can use it against you. Machiavelli's world was filled with deceit, ambition, and betrayal. But his lessons were not meant for tyrants, they were written for survivors. He wasn't glorifying cruelty. He was warning you, the naïve, the overly emotional, the blindly trusting they are the first to fall. You can still have a good heart, but it must be shielded by a sharp mind. You can still be kind, but your kindness must be selective, not universal. You can still trust, but test before you believe. Because power is not about domination. It's about protection of your time, your energy, your peace, your dignity. Machiavelli would tell you, the greatest power is self-command, and it begins with one act, the decision to stop being stupid. Let's strip away every illusion. Stupidity isn't about intelligence. It's about control. The stupid man could have talent, potential, even education, but without control of his words, emotions, and focus, he destroys himself long before anyone else does. Machiavelli understood this with surgical clarity. He wrote that men are ruined more by their nature than by their enemies, meaning most people are not defeated by others, they defeat themselves. And the stupid man, he does it proudly, publicly, and repeatedly. The stupid man craves attention. He cannot stand the thought of being unseen. He must always speak, always explain, always insert himself. He believes that if he's visible, he's powerful, but visibility without value is just noise. Watch him in a group. He tries to prove he's relevant. He interrupts, overshares, performs. His words are not designed to persuade, only to be heard. But every extra word cheapens him, because the more he reveals, the easier he becomes to predict. And predictability kills influence. Machiavelli would call this voluntary exposure, a self-inflicted wound of the ego. Power demands mystery. The man who cannot stop talking is the man who hands out the blueprint to his own downfall. The wise man, in contrast, lets silence work for him. His pauses create tension. His quietness forces others to lean in. People remember not everything he says, but the weight of what he withholds. That's real presence. The stupid man is predictable. Predictability is a curse in the game of power. It tells your enemies exactly when to strike. It tells manipulators how to play you. The stupid man reacts the same way every time. Get under his skin, and he'll lash out. Ignore him, and he'll chase. Praise him, and he'll melt. He calls it being authentic. But it's not authenticity, it's programming. Everyone around him learns his buttons. Soon, they don't need to overpower him. They just need to press the right one. Machiavelli would remind him, the man who cannot disguise his intent cannot rule it. To be powerful is not to hide your soul, it's to guard it. It's to decide what deserves your reaction and what doesn't. The wise man is unpredictable by design. Sometimes he speaks, sometimes he vanishes, sometimes he forgives, sometimes he cuts ties cold. His inconsistency keeps others cautious, and caution breeds respect. The stupid man forgives too quickly. He confuses peace with passivity. When someone wrongs him, he wants to move on. He tells himself it's maturity, when in truth, it's fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of loss, fear of being alone. So he forgives again and again. Not because people deserve it, but because he's afraid of being disliked. And every time he does, he trains others to disrespect him. Machiavelli said, "Mercy unarmed invites injury. To forgive without consequence is not virtue, it's invitation. It tells the offender, you can harm me without cost." The wise man forgives silently, but he never forgets. He doesn't need revenge. His punishment is distance. His strength is absence. He forgives not to restore peace with others, but to restore peace within himself. The stupid man hides behind virtue. When he fails, he seeks refuge in moral superiority. He says things like, "At least I'm a good person," as if decency alone is a shield against consequence. He'd rather feel righteous than responsible. But Machiavelli knew better. The man who only wishes to be good will perish among so many who are not. The world doesn't reward purity. It rewards awareness. You can be moral and still be manipulated if you don't understand how people operate. Being good is admirable, but being good without boundaries is suicide. True virtue is power under control, the ability to be kind and dangerous, honest and strategic, compassionate and disciplined. That balance is what the stupid man never learns. He wants to be seen as good, not to become strong. So he sacrifices results for appearances. He wants to be loved, not respected. And love, when begged for, becomes pity. The cure: strategic self-awareness. A man can only change what he's willing to see. So if you recognize these traits, the oversharing, the reactivity, the endless forgiveness, don't run from them. Study them, because awareness is the first weapon against self-sabotage. The wise man doesn't avoid discomfort. He uses it. Every time he feels anger rise, he pauses. Every time he feels disrespected, he watches. Every time he feels the urge to explain, he stays silent. That restraint transforms him. He no longer acts on impulse. He acts with purpose. People sense the shift. His calm becomes power. His silence becomes authority. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to prove yourself, the world starts noticing you. When you stop chasing validation, people seek your approval. When you stop explaining, your words start carrying weight. Because in the end, as Machiavelli wrote, he who cannot command himself will be commanded by others. The stupid man's tragedy is not that he lacks intelligence, it's that he lacks discipline. The wise man's triumph is not that he knows everything, it's that he controls what he gives away. So remember this: power begins the moment you stop reacting, the moment you no longer explain, the moment you realize your silence terrifies those who once underestimated you. That's when you stop being a fool and start becoming a force. Machiavelli once wrote that men are ruined more by their nature than by fortune. Most men are not defeated by others. They're undone by their own lack of control. They talk too much, trust too soon, and mistake emotion for truth. They think their goodness will protect them, but in a world of cunning players, unguarded goodness is just an invitation to be used. The stupid man never learns this. He blames luck, betrayal, or circumstance, anything but himself. But the truth is cruel. No one can destroy you more effectively than your own weakness, the collapse of the naive self. Every man reaches a breaking point, that moment when the old version of himself finally dies, the version that needed approval, that chased validation, that confused being liked with being respected. It happens after enough betrayal, enough disrespect, enough silence in return for loyalty. Something shifts. The fire cools, but it doesn't go out. It sharpens. He stops performing for others. He stops defending himself. He stops explaining what only the blind refuse to see. His silence becomes a boundary. His distance becomes a message. His calm, once mistaken for weakness, turns into power. That's the birth of the strategist. A man no longer ruled by emotion, but by awareness. The law of distance. The stupid man believes presence equals value. He's always available, always explaining, always saying yes. But what's always around becomes invisible. Machiavelli warned that overfamiliarity kills respect. The same applies today. When you're always accessible, people stop appreciating your presence. When you disappear, they remember what it costs to have you. Distance isn't coldness, it's control. It teaches people that access to you is earned. The strategist uses distance the way kings use silence. to remind others that his time is not free, his energy not infinite. The power of silence. Weak men fear silence. They rush to fill it with noise, hoping it proves their worth. But silence is not emptiness. It's gravity. Machiavelli would say, "He who speaks less commands more." Silence unsettles the emotional, exposes the manipulative, and disarms the arrogant. It forces others to reveal what they hide while you reveal nothing. When insulted, the stupid man argues. When tested, he reacts. The strategist smiles. He waits. He lets others expose themselves through their own impatience. Every pause becomes pressure. Every quiet glance becomes command. Emotional stillness. The stupid man believes his emotions are strength, that honesty means expressing everything he feels, but emotion without control is weakness. Every outburst, every rant, every visible reaction gives away power. The strategist still feels, but he decides what the world gets to see. He uses emotion as data, not direction. Anger teaches him what needs fixing. Fear warns him what to prepare for. Pain tells him what to never allow again. Machiavelli wrote, "He who conquers himself conquers fortune." Control your impulses, and no one can control you. The end of victimhood. The stupid man hides behind excuses. He blames others for his failures, calls betrayal bad luck, and mistakes pity for wisdom. But victimhood is comfortable. It asks for nothing. The strategist studies pain instead. Every failure becomes a map. Every loss becomes training. He doesn't ask, "Why me?" He asks, "What did I allow? What did I miss?" That single shift, from blaming to analyzing, turns pain into power. The transformation. As the strategist evolves, people notice. His calm unsettles them. His silence makes them cautious. His absence feels heavier than his presence once did. They say, "He's changed." But he hasn't. He's returned to himself. The version that existed before the world taught him to beg for respect. Now, he doesn't argue for value. He embodies it. He doesn't demand loyalty. He commands it through presence. His peace is no longer weakness. It's dominance through restraint. The final law. Machiavelli's final truth is simple. Men must be either respected or removed. Either people honor your boundaries or they lose access to you. You don't negotiate respect, you enforce it. The stupid man reacts. The strategist observes. The stupid man talks. The strategist listens. The stupid man forgives to avoid conflict. The strategist forgives to end attachment. In the end, power isn't about control over others, it's mastery over yourself. Because once you can hold your tongue, guard your emotions, and walk away without guilt, no one can hurt you. That's not arrogance. That's intelligence. Machiavellian intelligence. And when you reach that level of control, nothing and nobody will ever command you again.